with a sense of trepidation and purpose, my heart racing as I adjusted the janitor's uniform I'd borrowed. This wasn't just any building. It was my family's company, the empire my father had spent his life building. But I wasn't here as a privileged daughter. Today, I was just another faceless worker. The plan was simple: blend in, observe, and uncover the truth about how our employees were being treated. The receptionist barely glanced at me as I walked in. "Maintenance?" she asked dismissively. I nodded, keeping my head down. "Yes, ma'am." "Break room needs cleaning," she snapped, not even bothering with pleasantries. It was my first taste of the disdain many employees faced. My father had always preached about treating workers with respect, but I was about to discover how far the reality was from his words. The break room reeked of stale coffee and resentment. Conversation stopped as I entered, all eyes turning to the new janitor. One of the employees, a man in his mid-30s with a condescending smirk, muttered loud enough for everyone to hear, "Guess they'll let anyone in here these days." I bit my tongue, reminding myself of my mission. As I wiped down the counters, I listened carefully to their conversations. Complaints about management, long hours, and unfair treatment echoed through the room. Later that day, I encountered Ava, the HR manager. She was supposed to be the bridge between employees and upper management, but her attitude told a different story. "Hey, janitor," she called out. "You missed a spot." Her tone dripped with superiority as she pointed to a nearly invisible smudge on the floor. I clenched my fists, forcing a smile. "Of course, ma'am. Right away." She scoffed and walked off, leaving me seething. If only she knew who I really was. Over the next few days, I witnessed things that left me furious. Employees were overworked, underappreciated, and treated like disposable cogs in a machine. Supervisors barked orders without a shred of respect, and Ava, the HR manager, seemed to take pleasure in belittling her staff. One incident stood out. A young intern named Lily was reduced to tears after a supervisor berated her for a minor mistake. "If you can't handle the pressure, maybe this isn't the place for you," he sneered. I stepped in, unable to hold back. "That's enough," I said firmly. He glared at me. "Stay out of it, janitor. This doesn't concern you." But it did concern me. These were my employees, and I wasn't going to let this slide. That evening, I found Lily in the break room, still wiping away tears. I sat down beside her, offering her a tissue. "Thanks," she whispered. "You don't deserve to be treated like that," I said softly. "No one does." She gave me a sad smile. "It's just how things are here. You get used to it." But I didn't want anyone to get used to it. After 2 weeks of blending in, I had seen enough. The employees weren't the problem. It was the toxic management culture. Ava and her team of supervisors had created an environment of fear and hostility. It was time to take action. The day of reckoning was drawing closer, but I knew I couldn't rush things. I started by building trust with a few employees who seemed genuinely kind but were stuck in the toxic environment. One of them was an older janitor named Mr. Harris. He had worked for the company for over 20 years and had seen the gradual decline in morale. "They used to treat us like family," he said one evening as we cleaned the lobby together. "Now, it's all about squeezing us for every penny." His words stung because they mirrored my own observations. "Things will change," I promised him, though I kept my tone neutral. He gave me a sad smile. "I've heard that before, kid. But I hope you're right." My resolve was tested when I saw Ava berating a young man named Carlos in front of everyone. He had accidentally spilled coffee on her desk while delivering a report. "You're a complete idiot," she snapped. "Do you know how much this desk costs? More than your pathetic salary, that's for sure." Carlos stood there, his face turning red with embarrassment. I couldn't hold back anymore. "Enough," I said firmly, stepping forward. Ava spun around, her eyes narrowing. "What did you just say?" "You don't have the right to speak to him like that," I replied, my voice calm but unyielding. "Everyone makes mistakes." Her face twisted in anger. "You're a janitor. Know your place." I didn't respond, but I made a mental note that Ava's reign of terror would soon come to an end. I began taking small steps to empower the employees. I started anonymously leaving encouraging notes in the break room and slipping small gifts into lockers, things like coffee vouchers or thank you cards. At first, people were skeptical. "What's the catch?" someone asked. "There is no catch," I said quietly one day, overhearing their doubts. Sometimes kindness doesn't need a reason. The atmosphere began to shift, albeit slightly. People started smiling more, and there was a spark of hope that hadn't been there before. I needed allies to take down Ava and the toxic supervisors. I carefully observed which employees had influence among their peers. One of them was Maria, a no-nonsense team leader who always stood up for her team, even when it put her at odds with management. I approached her during her lunch break, carefully choosing my words. "Maria, I admire the way you stand up for people here." She raised an eyebrow. "What's your angle?" "No angle," I replied. "I just think this place could be better, and I want to help." She studied me for a moment before nodding. "All right, janitor. Let's see what you've got." With Maria's help, we orchestrated a small but impactful act of defiance. One of the supervisors, Greg, had been notorious for making employees stay late without pay. Maria and I gathered evidence and anonymously reported him to HR. To my surprise, Ava tried to cover for Greg, dismissing the complaints as exaggerations. That's when I decided to take things to the next level. I secretly recorded Ava berating an employee and forwarded the video to the company's ethics hotline. The video went viral internally, and the employees finally had proof of her behavior. The backlash was immediate. Ava was furious, but she had no idea who was behind the leak. As the days passed, word of the anonymous whistleblower spread like wildfire. I watched as employees who had once been disheartened began to find their voices. Maria, in particular, became a beacon of hope. She started organizing after-hours meetings in secret, where employees shared their grievances and brainstormed ways to push back against the toxic management. One night, Maria invited me to one of these gatherings. The break room felt alive for the first time in years as people spoke openly. "This place has drained us for too long," one employee said, slamming his fist on the table. "It's time we demand change." I listened intently, my heart swelling with pride and sadness. These people had endured so much, and yet they still found the strength to fight back. After everyone had spoken, Maria turned to me. "You've been quiet, janitor. What do you think?" I hesitated, knowing I couldn't reveal my identity just yet. "I think you're all braver than you realize," I said. "And I think change is closer than you think." The next morning, I decided to take a risk. I left a detailed letter outlining Ava's abuses on the desk of the company's compliance officer. The letter included dates, names, and specific incidents, enough to start a formal investigation. But I knew Ava wouldn't go down without a fight. Sure enough, later that day, she stormed into the break room, her face a mask of fury. "Listen up, everyone," she barked. "Whoever's been spreading lies about me better come forward now, or there will be consequences." Her threat hung in the air like a storm cloud. I glanced around, noticing the fear in my colleagues' eyes. But no one spoke up. Ava's grip on this company was slipping, and she knew it. Ava began targeting employees she suspected of being behind the rebellion. Maria was one of the first to be called into her office. When Maria returned, her face was pale, and her hands were shaking. "She threatened to fire me," Maria whispered to me later. "Said if I didn't tell her who's been spreading rumors, I'd be out of a job." I placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Don't let her scare you. She's losing control, and she knows it." Maria nodded, but I could see the doubt in her eyes. Ava's reign of terror wasn't over yet. Despite Ava's intimidation tactics, the employees began to band together. Maria and I worked late into the night, drafting a formal complaint that dozens of employees signed. The document was a damning indictment of Ava's leadership, detailing everything from verbal abuse to unethical business practices. Once it was finalized, we submitted it directly to the board of directors, bypassing Ava entirely. It was a risky move, but we were running out of options. When Ava found out about the complaint, she went on the warpath. She called an emergency meeting, dragging employees into her office one by one. Her goal was clear: to root out the leaders of the rebellion and crush them. But she underestimated the employees' resolve. For the first time, they refused to back down. "I'm not afraid of you anymore," Carlos told her during his meeting. "You can fire me if you want, but you can't silence me." His bravery inspired others to stand up as well. Ava's power was crumbling, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. The board of directors couldn't ignore the growing unrest within the company. They called a meeting to address the complaints, and Ava was forced to defend herself. "I managed to sneak into the meeting as a janitor, blending into the background as Ava tried to spin the situation in her favor. These accusations are baseless," she claimed. "It's just a few disgruntled employees trying to stir up trouble." But the board wasn't convinced. They announced that an independent investigation would be conducted, and Ava's authority was temporarily suspended. It was a small victory, but it was enough to give the employees hope. As the investigation unfolded, more and more evidence of Ava's misconduct came to light. Employees who had been too afraid to speak up before began sharing their stories, and the picture that emerged was damning. Ava tried to discredit the witnesses, but her lies only made her look worse. The board had no choice but to place her on indefinite leave while they decided her fate. With Ava out of the picture, I knew it was time to reveal my true identity. I called an all-hands meeting, inviting every employee to attend. When I stepped onto the stage, wearing a suit instead of my janitor's uniform, the room erupted in whispers. "My name is Isabella Carter," I announced, "and I'm here to set things right." The shock on their faces was priceless. For the first time, they realized that the janitor they had ignored or dismissed was actually the daughter of the company's founder. For a moment, the room was dead silent. Then the murmurs started. Some employees looked shocked. Others seemed embarrassed, no doubt recalling the times they had dismissed me or treated me poorly. Maria was the first to step forward. You're Mr. Carter's daughters?" I nodded. "Yes. I've spent the last few weeks working alongside you to see firsthand what this company has become. And let me tell you, what I've seen has left me both heartbroken and furious." A few heads dropped, and I could sense the mixture of guilt and relief in the room. "I came here disguised as a janitor because I wanted the truth. I needed to know how you were being treated, and now I do. But I promise you this. Things are going to change." After the meeting, I headed straight for Ava's office. She had been temporarily suspended, but I knew she was still lurking around, trying to salvage her reputation. When I entered, she looked up, her expression twisting into a sneer. "Ah, the princess finally reveals herself. Come to gloats." I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. "I came to let you know that your reign is over. The board has all the evidence they need to remove you permanently. You won't hurt anyone here again." Ava leaned back in her chair, smirking. "You think you've won? These people don't care about you. The moment things get tough, they'll turn on you, just like they did to me." Her words stung, but I refused to let her see it. "The difference is I'm not like you. I'm here to rebuild what you tried to destroy." The next few weeks were some of the most challenging of my life. With Ava officially removed from her position, I stepped in as interim CEO. My first priority was to rebuild trust with the employees, and that meant listening to their concerns and acting on them. I held daily meetings, inviting employees to share their experiences and suggestions for improvement. At first, only a few people showed up, but as word spread that I was genuinely interested in their input, more and more employees began attending. One of the most emotional moments came when Carlos stood up and said, "I never thought someone in your position would care about people like me. Thank you for proving me wrong." As I delved deeper into the company's operations, I discovered just how much damage Ava and her team had done. Employees were owed thousands of dollars in unpaid overtime, safety protocols had been ignored, and morale was at an all-time low. I immediately implemented a series of changes. Employees were compensated for their unpaid overtime. A new HR team was brought in to ensure fair treatment for everyone. An anonymous feedback system was introduced, giving employees a safe way to report issues. The changes didn't happen overnight, but slowly, I began to see a shift in the company's culture. One of my favorite moments came during an employee appreciation event I organized. For years, the hardworking people behind the scenes had gone unnoticed, but now it was their time to shine. Mr. Harris, the janitor who had shown me kindness when I first started, was among those honored. When I called his name, he looked genuinely surprised. Mr. Harris, your dedication and hard work have not gone unnoticed, I said. Thank you for everything you've done for this company. He wiped away a tear as the room erupted into applause. Not everyone was happy about the changes. A small group of supervisors who had benefited from Ava's toxic policies began pushing back, spreading rumors, and trying to undermine my authority. One day, I caught two of them whispering in the hallway. She thinks she can fix everything, one of them sneered. Let's see how long she lasts. I confronted them directly. If you have something to say it to my face, I said, my voice steady. They looked startled, but I didn't back down. This company is moving forward. If you can't handle that, you're welcome to leave. While I was making progress professionally, the emotional toll of the past few weeks was beginning to weigh on me. Late one night, as I sat alone in my office, I found myself questioning if I was strong enough to keep going. My father's portrait hung on the wall behind me, his eyes seeming to offer encouragement. You always said this company was about people, Dad, I whispered. I hope I'm making you proud. To symbolize the company's new beginning, I decided to renovate the break room, a space that had once been a source of dread for employees. The walls were repainted, new furniture was brought in, and a small library of books and games was added. When the renovations were complete, I gathered the employees for the unveiling. This is more than just a break room, I said. It's a reminder that this company values you. You are the heart and soul of everything we do. The applause that followed was deafening. As the months went by, the company began to thrive. Productivity soared, not because of fear or intimidation, but because employees felt valued and supported. One day, Maria approached me with a smile. You've done it, Isabella. You've brought this company back to life. I shook my head. We did it. None of this would have been possible without all of you. The journey had been long and challenging, but as I looked out over the crowd of smiling employees at our annual celebration, I knew it had all been worth it. This company was no longer a place of fear and despair. It was a place of hope, respect, and opportunity, a true reflection of my father's vision. As I stepped down from the stage, Carlos approached me. You changed my life, he said.